It was a bad business. My dad and I owned and operated a borderline bordello.
Rudy Rasmus learned the family business from his father when he was just 5 years old. His dad brought home a set of blueprints and unveiled his business plans. Together, they would get rich in the sex industry.
I'm fascinated. I'm looking at these plans saying, wow, what is that? And he goes on to tell me that this is a motel, and other people's husbands were gonna come and give us money to spend time in one of our rooms.
17 years later, Motel Houston opened its doors, right next door to the family's home. The motel strictly catered to prostitutes and their customers. With Rudy in charge, the business took off. He calls it a borderline bordello because he says he never took a cut of the prostitutes' profits.
The women were independent contractors. We didn't really directly profit from their trade. We rented them a room, but the activity was the same. In a sexually oriented business, and that's what that was. It is a dark environment. And in those dark places, a lot of unseeming activity takes place. I remember my heart being calloused. And not really caring, as long as it was profitable. We profited from darkness.
Rudy distanced himself from what went on behind closed doors.
It was another day at work. I mean, right and wrong in those days, the lines kind of blurred together. I mean, it was about making money. It wasn't about right or wrong. It was about going to the bank. Money was God.
But his God didn't satisfy. The thrill of making easy money at Motel Houston faded.
And there was definitely something missing in my life. And I think the one thing that was missing was fulfillment. It was just an empty place.
Rudy spent years searching for true fulfillment, but each time, he came up empty. He met a woman at a funeral that held the answer.
And this woman walked into the church and kind of caught the corner of my eye. I looked over at the corner of my eye, and I really forgot what was happening at the front of the building.
From the start, there was something different about Juanita. She was a Christian, but naive about Rudy's work. They began dating.
I thought of it as the fact that this was a family business. I think I was probably very naive about the kinds of activities that actually went on there. And I look back now and I realize that my having been so naive was very much a gift, because it gave me an opportunity to really see his heart, and I didn't pay attention to all this other stuff going on around him. And I really think that was kind of a God setup, if you know what I mean.
Rudy and Juanita fell in love and married. She wanted to have a godly family and took Rudy to church.
The preacher in this particular church reached out to me. He allowed me to get to know him, and that was profound. So I started showing up to this church every week. After church, I'd go back to my business. I did that for 5 years.
Juanita spent those years praying for her husband.
I just prayed, God, allow your divine love to be manifested in his life. Allow your will to be done in his life.
One thing Juanita did was love me unconditionally. I watched her life and her faith. I said, she's got something that I really would like to have.
Rudy joined a men's Bible study group. He searched for truth in the scriptures and finally found what he'd been looking for.
I had cash, but there was a hole kind of in my spirit, a hole in my being that I couldn't fill up with money or stuff. And that's really, I knew something was missing, but I didn't know what. And I never figured it to be God that was missing. By the end of that year, I said yes to Jesus. And that's when it really began. I began to develop a conscience.
Rudy knew things at work had to change.
That first year as a Christian, I'm still in the business. Can I imagine that? That's not cool. I'm a Christian, I had this love in my heart, except people are still, getting hurt every day in this place where I make money. So I stopped taking the money first.
Though he continued to manage the motel for his father, Rudy refused to take a paycheck.
I thought, well, maybe if I just didn't take the money, I could still run the business. But, during that year, I said, no, I can't even do this. I can't. So I tell my pops, I said, hey, Dad, I can't do this anymore. And that's when he really thought I was losing my mind. And I really had. I had lost my mind to Christ.
When you pray God's word for somebody that you love and you care about, and then you see God manifest that word in their lives, it is incredible.
Rudy and Juanita volunteered to pastor an inner-city church in Houston, Texas that had just 9 members. Today, their congregation at St. John's Church has exploded to 9,000. Every day, Rudy and Juanita make it their mission to embrace broken, hurting people with God's unconditional love.
The way we feel God is through love. When I look back over my life, even from a little boy, I can sense those moments when God was like, here I am, I'm real, trust me, try me. I wasn't a bad guy, but I didn't do good things. And in spite of that, Jesus said, you can be a part of my crowd. And that's really why I'm so committed to this faith today, because of the unconditional love God showed me.